Hello and welcome to Get Yourself Optimized. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, and today it is my distinct pleasure to have Ambika Wauters with us. Ambika is a homeopath, published author of 26 books. Yes, 26 on chakras, spiritual healing, and the realm of angels. Her newest book, just out, is called Releasing Shame, Guilt, and Martyrdom, a practical guide to pleasure and health. Ambika has created 3 prize-winning oracle decks, including Angels of Light, which is beautiful, I have to say. It's with her own paintings. She is creative, innovative, and clear about the power of healing through inner work, determination, and self-love. Ambika runs the Life Energy Medicine School of Healing, where she trains homeopaths and people interested in learning about the human energy system. Ambika, it's so great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Stephan. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
It's a joy to have you, and you're doing so much in the world and have over many years. I'm curious, maybe to start our conversation, if you could share, of your 26 books, which one's your favorite?
Always the last one I wrote is my favorite. But I have some that I really marvel at. The Angelic Year is an incredibly beautifully illustrated book of prayers and meditations, and it follows the year, the zodiac year, and it's thematically organized. So let's say we're dealing with Scorpio, and we look at the qualities for the 4 weeks of Scorpio, and then the equinoxes, the change of seasons. And I'm now in the process of not rewriting it, but we're going to republish it. It's been out of print for a while, and I'm going to put my own paintings in there.
Oh,
So
cool.
I'm really excited about it. It's my art and poetry and prayers and meditations, and it's just an amazing gift to be able to write that book. And it's won some awards for its beauty, and I hope that I hope my paintings don't do it justice, actually. And I wrote a book that I really, really loved. It kind of fell through the cracks. It was called Life Energy Changes. And it was just a book of questions, chakra related, but questions. It's a whole book of questions. And people really took to it. The people who used it said it was wonderful. They did it with their families, they did it with their kids, they did it with their grandparents, because there's a lot about history, the history of our families and where they came from, what they learned, what they suffered. And I draw on that book quite a lot in my work. Really, I think I must have sold 12 copies or something. I don't know. But it's a book I love. And I love writing. So I've only had trouble with 2 books. They're called jinxed books in the publishing world, where something goes wrong. And the first one was way in the beginning, way back in the 90s. I got a virus on my computer and I didn't know it. And I sent the book off to Italy. For some reason, it was being printed in Italy and it corrupted. And so I had to rewrite the whole book, and I couldn't, there was nothing to draw on because I had sent them my text. So I had to rewrite the book.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they call it a jinx book, and it was like jinxed. And then there was another book. I can't remember, not sure the title. I think it had to do with color healing. It also was problematic, but the rest have been a total delight, a trip into bliss and creativity and inspiration. And that's why I love writing.
And how are the oracle decks in comparison? Are those also a joy to produce, or
yeah.
is it different?
Oh, no, they're wonderful. They're deeply wonderful and fun, because you have to figure out how it's going to play out. You know, that you can't have a card in there that doesn't fit. It all has to mesh. You have to work out how the spreads are going to go, and what the picture and the affirmation are going to be. I love doing them. And I've got a new one. I'm going to get it out in the new year on the Blessed Virgin Mary, the feminine principle. And I'm very excited about that. It comes from a poem written in the 16th century called the Litany of the Blessed Virgin of Loretto. And it's where she is described as the tower of ivory, the the pillar of gold. I mean, they're just these endlessly beautiful metaphors for her. So I took each one of the metaphors and turned it into a card. And I think it's splendid.
So what is the process when you pick an oracle card or an affirmation card? There's some guidance from above that helps you pick the right card, right?
Yeah.
So how does that work?
Well, I actually wrote a prayer that whatever card you pick is divinely guided for you. And I'm going to start to put that in my new oracles, because this isn't random. It's not helter-skelter. It's divine guidance. It comes through an oracle. I mean, people have been relying on oracles for thousands and thousands of years. I mean, from, the runes are oracles. The people threw bones to get an oracle. I'm reading this biography of Alexander the Great, and he and his father, King Philip of Macedonia, had soothsayers. The Dalai Lama has his group of mediums and people who channel the divine. And I once was privileged very late at night. I couldn't sleep, and I got up. I was living in Britain, and I turned on BBC, and there was this film of the Dalai Lama and the people who wear this hat that weighs like, I don't know, 200 pounds. It could break a man's neck. And if they were not in the trance, it would have snapped their neck.
Wow.
And these people do a dance and the rituals, and they channel divine guidance. Often when a Rinpoche has died and they're trying to find out the direction, where to go search for the new reincarnation, they call upon these extraordinary channelers. So it's part of us. Intuition is, I'd say, the best guide we have. I'd rather trust my intuition than hear what a doctor has to say, or a lawyer, or the government. Don't get me going on this one.
I agree with you. I came to the new realization as of last year that intuition isn't a gut instinct. It's actually your angels, your guides whispering into your consciousness. And I did not understand that before.
Yes, it's angels whispering in your ears, quite literally, quite literally. And there are a few paintings I found where you see angels actually whispering into the ears of muses. They're very beautiful. And to learn to tap into the wise guidance of your life, it's work. It's there. You don't have to put it in place. It's there. What you need to do, or what we need to do, is to pull back and tune in and listen, really listen. I'll tell you a story. Many years ago, 25 years ago, I had invested some money in the stock market. And somebody said, oh, take your money and put it in the stock market. And I'd never done that. It was never my thing. So I went to see a stockbroker. I gave him my life savings. And one day I was at my desk writing, and I heard a voice say, take your money out of the stock market now. I was like, what? What? It had been in there for like 3-4 months. And I thought, I'm either going to listen to my guidance or not. What's the choice here? So I said, I'm going to listen. I called him up. I said, I'd like to take my money out of my account right now, and I'd like it sent back. And he said, how, you can't do that, blah, blah, blah. I said, yes, I can do this. And I really want to do that. So he begrudgingly got my money out. 4 hours later, the stock market collapsed. And it was one of those things that took years for the stocks to go back up. I'm talking in the 90s. And so it was like, when I hear that little voice say, you're going to do this, or this, you want to look at that, or read this book, or watch that movie, or go talk to that person over there, I listen.
Yeah.
It was a
Me
huge.
too.
Yeah, good. Yeah, developing that inner guidance, I think one of the great ways to do it is with archetypal cards. The cards are archetypes, no matter whose deck it is. They're two-dimensional and they carry a message. And we each have the opportunity to read what we want to into it. It's not written in stone, it's interpretive. And It gives us a chance to really understand ourselves and the process of what works through us, what goodness works through us. And I think the more we get it, the better we can serve the divine in what we do.
Yeah, for sure. And step one is to not only listen to the intuitive hits, but to then follow them.
Yes, it takes a lot of courage to,
Yeah.
pulling up money. Oh, it's like, whoa, do I dare? And I thought, hey, come on, this is what I heard. You try to justify intuition a lot. People like to call it, the creative call, or the muses are speaking. It's what I call downloads now. Oh, I got a downloaded meditation.
Yeah.
And I live my life that way.
Yeah. I call them intuitive hits. And that way it doesn't feel too religious to some people who are kind of not getting with the program at that moment. And and then if they ask for explanation, then I just say an intuitive hit for me means that it comes in unexpected. It's charge neutral. There's no emotion tied to it. It's not anxiety producing or exciting or fear inducing. It's just simply is. And then it doesn't lead anywhere else. It doesn't jump to the next thought, to the next thought, to the next thought. And next thing you know, I'm thinking about some childhood cartoon or something, right?
Right. You really nailed it. I've never looked at those qualities that define it. I just accept it. I just simply accept it. But I love the way you've defined it. It's excellent. And really, a lot of the work that we do is teaching people to listen, to really listen. I bring intuition into homeopathy, but I don't ask my students to count on it. Just listen to it, because I want them to be able to back up any remedy they offer. And they need to be able to do that in the classical way, using the repertory and the materia medica, and really standing behind their choice for a remedy. But I also say, well, how do you feel about what you've just heard? And some of the things we hear are very deep and sometimes very dark. What you're feeling about this? How do you feel about what you've been told? Because if you can't really get your senses around your intuition, I think you will struggle as a healer. Everything will be prescriptive, and prescription is fine to a point, but there's the art and the science of treatment. And the science is very well defined, but the art, not so much.
Right. Yeah, and there's stuff that could be going on, contraindications and side effects and drug interactions and things like that you're not aware of. And
they are. They're taught to ask all the questions.
No, good.
What do you take? What have you taken in the past 20 years? Have you had surgery? Have you had narcotics? Do you do everything? Family predisposition to illness. The whole thing is laid out in a health intake form. But the intuitive part is, do you feel you're being told the truth? Do you feel this person is in integrity? Do you feel this person is suffering? Those are intuitive things that can lead you to deeper healing for yourself and for others. Yeah. I bring it into my training.
Yeah. It reminds me, I just learned in the book You Were Born for This by Bruce Wilkinson, there's a whole chapter on forgiveness and delivering miracles to people that are forgiveness related. So they need to forgive somebody. And one of the key indicators that they need to forgive is you ask them the question, are you in torment about this issue or with regards to this person? And if they are, that is a sure sign that there is an unforgiveness blockage there that needs to be released.
Yes, because when you hold on to enmity and anger and rage, it eats you up. It literally torments you until you are willing to forgive.
Yeah.
I think the price of unforgiveness is worse than anything that could have been done to you. I mean it.
Yeah, it's astronomical. It really is.
Yes.
It has sweeping changes across all dimensions. I think it's one of the most destructive forces.
Absolutely.
Hmm. Now, one thing I love about intuition that I just recently got the distinction around is that you can get confirmation. So you think that you're hearing something, or that you get this gut feel, this sort of this knowing, but maybe there's something about it that you're doubting, or maybe you're just not 100%. You're new at this. One of the simplest ways you can um, go past this issue, go through it, is to simply ask for confirmation. Seems so simple. It's just like, okay,
It's
so
very simple. No, that's right. It's very simple.
yeah, but not
Sometimes,
necessarily easy, because people get into the habit of just doing something different. The well-worn grooves in our brain that are from doing the same habit over and over and over again. So I have
yeah,
to retrain myself.
it's either your will or God's will. I think I'd pick God's will every time
Yeah, yeah,
because it's so vast, so all-encompassing and all-knowing. My vision is like this big. It's, what do I think I know? What kind of arrogance is that? I don't.
yeah.
And sometimes,
Something I love in Kabbalah that I learned, this principle, is that we are in the 1% reality.
yes,
And the 99% reality is where everything else is. And in our little 1% reality, we could spend decades studying just one little aspect of that 1% reality, and we're not even scratching the surface.
no, I
So
agree with you. I
yeah,
agree. That's wisdom, to know where you are in your limitation and that you really don't know. And sometimes, like in a case, um, you think you got an answer there, a remedy is going to help this person. And all of a sudden the little voice says, no, that's not what they need. And I go, oh, what? Then I've learned to say, what would help this person? What would help this person? And often, I mean, I've been doing this for 35 years. So when I hear a remedy, I get the books out, I look it up, and I go, wow, this would be a great remedy. So a lot of times I'm gifted with an answer, but I always will back it up. I don't indiscriminately hand out a remedy. I
mm,
study it, but I do hear it quite a lot,
yeah.
and I trust that.
So where does study and writing and sharing about the angelic world, and then the homeopathic and the other modalities and areas, where do these fit in? Are you mostly on the angelic realm of things? Because I know you've got your angel decks, and you have books about angels and so forth, right? And then you have all the homeopathy stuff, and you have also things about healing with other modalities like spiritual healing and chakras and so forth. Yeah, I'm curious, where's your primary focus been and going to be?
My day job is that I'm a homeopath. I have private clients and I teach a school called the Institute of Life Energy Medicine School of Healing. And in that, the whole first year of a 2-year certification course is a study of the chakras. And I've aligned the chakras with cell salts, what nozos, which are for genetic predisposition, conventional homeopathic remedies, so that they look at the life issues of a chakra, and there are several remedies, flower essences, cell salts, to look at and understand how they work within that range. And then the second year is all clinical work. But I'm skilled as a homeopath. I've been doing it for 35 years. I studied for 10 years in the UK, and I run a school and I train a very small number of very excellent students from around the world. It's not big and it will never be big. It's small, it's intimate. We have some really extraordinary people, doctors and nurses and therapists and shamans, and these are people that I've learned to love and trust. Recently, our granddaughter got COVID, and I had all the remedies prepared for them so that they knew exactly what to give her. But I sent an email out, which we call the call to prayer, to my students. Please pray for this child and her parents. So, I know that I can call upon them, and they know they can call upon me and the rest of the group. Things happen in people's lives. People get sick, some people get terminal illnesses, some people lose their dogs. It doesn't matter what. If it's something that distresses, we put the call of prayer out and we all hold one another in prayer. It's really quite unique. And that's based on trust and love. That has nothing to do with the academic learning of this medicine called homeopathy, or even life energy medicine. So it took me a long time to even bring the chakras in to homeopathy. And that was something, I had this teacher, this wonderful Jewish man in England. He was very academic, and he had this vast library of 8,000 homeopathic books. And he asked me to write an article on I had developed these remedies based on color, light, and sound. And he asked me to write an article for the British Journal. So I put in chakras, and he said this email back. He said, of my 8,000 books, there is not one mention of the word chakra. I said, there is now. There is now, because that's what I've done. I brought that in. But the realm of angels, I am beginning to bring it in. I've made remedies based on the archangels. I have made remedies based on the holy waters from the Christian shrines around the world. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem, Lourdes, Fatima, places in America here, the Church of, not the church, what's it called? Our Lady of Consolation in somewhere in Ohio, Mother Cabrini Shrine in Colorado. People send me water from all over the place. And I've written a little book on it. And these are powerful remedies, and I've started to bring them in. Besides the color remedies, the sound remedies, there are now remedies based on the chakras, gem elixirs I've made, thought forms. You can make a remedy out of a thought form of love, of peace, of joy, because really these are all just metaphors for the good. They are archetypal metaphors. All homeopathic remedies, whether they're based on mineral, animal, plant, they are archetypes, metaphors for the good. And why limit? If the range is this big in the world of physical matter, expand it. It's called the realm of the Imponderables. That's what they call it. The Imponderables are things like sunlight, moonlight, color and sound, X-ray. X-ray is one of the most powerful remedies in all of homeopathy. It can cure cancer. So I tend to go into the angelic realm and love to write about it. Also now the remedies are also going that way too. And they play out. They work instantaneously. They do not have a long-term effect. They may hold for as long as it takes for you to transform your thought from something negative to something positive, like that. They're like that. And I love doing that. I love making remedies. I love sharing what I know about them. I'm really passionate about homeopathy. It took me a long time to talk about the realm of angels. I once was in Denver at a bookstore, and the angelic year had just come out. And I took some friends of mine with me. One of them was a former Jesuit priest. And I got up to talk, and nothing came out of my mouth. Nothing. I was just didn't feel like I had any authority to talk about it. And he got up and he started reading from the book, and I was so grateful. They wound up selling a lot of copies, but I couldn't talk. He saw that. He saw I was really blocked and kind of in shock, and got up and he did that for me, and I'm ever so grateful. But now I can talk about it. It took me a long time to be comfortable sharing that publicly, but they're really important parts of our lives.
Yes. Like they'll save your life. They will literally save your life.
If you want your life saved, they will save your life. They do not do what they are not asked to do.
Yeah.
That's a hard one for people. I said to somebody the other day, what do you think about asking for help? And this person said, I never asked for help. And I said, oh, you might want to reconsider that one.
Right.
because without asking for help, nothing will be done.
Yeah.
They need to know you have free will in this matter. You have free will and choice always. But they're around us all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It wasn't until my recent spiritual awakening, the second one, the one that I had this year, that I came to understand how integral the angels have been in my life. And
Yeah.
there was one moment that I walked away without a scratch from a car crash where the car itself was totaled. I had fallen asleep behind the wheel in my early 20s, driving all night long. And it was like 1 hour left to get to my destination. And I fell asleep going 65 miles an hour. And I walked away without a scratch. I hit a light pole, which popped out of its socket, and the car spun out in a ditch. I was hauling a U-Haul trailer with me. And yeah, I was very, very fortunate. And it wasn't luck. It was angels. And they had formed a geodesic dome around me to protect me.
I'm infinitely grateful for what I've come to see as the guidance that is given to us and the grace, walking in grace, what I call walking in grace.
Mm-hmm.
You were obviously in a state of grace to have been spared unbelievable pain, loss, and suffering. I mean, and it wakes you up. It's a wake-up call.
Yeah.
I think that illness can be a wake-up call. People want to look at it. I call it an opportunity disguised as loss. That we need to look at those moments in our lives and see how much grace we have, how much we are blessed by the presence of the divine all the time, all the time. It's, we take so much for granted.
Yeah.
And all you need is a situation like that once in your life. I had a similar situation, but not as devastating. I was on my way to a workshop in England, and I had a new car. And all of a sudden, this big French truck came up and picked up the rear of my car and spun me around this is on the motorway. So I was looking at the person who was, heading my way. And suddenly the car turned back around and was just on its way. I pulled over eventually, and I saw there wasn't even a mark on the car. And it was like, oh, how did that happen? How does that happen in the flash of a moment when you think of what could have happened? I mean, I think it's in our lives all the time. And I think all we can do is just say, thank you. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Being thankful for the goodness that's around us. I don't think they let us fall for an instant.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we are here to serve the divine, and we are blessed by the strength and the intelligence and I want to say courage. It takes a lot of courage to be on this earth plane, this human level. It takes a lot of courage. I marvel at the courage of people. I marvel at the courage. And they keep us going in the right direction.
Yeah. And to have that courage, knowing what you're going to walk into before you incarnate, and knowing that you're going to have the spiritual amnesia, so you won't remember all those different potential exit points or times where you could die if you so choose, but you can also be saved, like that time that you were saved. Your car was flipped back around. Amazing. I mean, these things are certainly a wake-up call, but they are also preordained potential exit points, potential off-ramps.
Yes, they are.
Back home.
You bet. Back home quickly. Absolutely. Yeah. And people people like being asleep. It's a very safe place to be asleep until they're awakened by some loss or some incident that jerks them back into reality. And that reality is the reality of the divine and the spiritual world working with us. It's not the reality of bricks and mortar. It's the reality of being a spiritual being here on this earth plane with a purpose, with a purpose.
Yeah. And comfort is the enemy, because when you get comfortable, you get complacent. And when you get complacent, you go deeper asleep.
Well, I like that, but I don't quite agree with you. I think,
tell me more. Yeah.
well, I think comfort is hugely important. I think being numb or dulled, your senses dulled, it's not what I call comfortable. Comfortable is being present and aware and in the moment and with your body relaxed and being at ease. I used to sit in this chair and write, and it's a straight back chair. I like my back straight when I write. I don't like falling back and being all cushy. I like being alert. But I started editing my new book on an iPad with about 10 pillows behind me in bed. And I thought, wow, this is really cool. And I did something I've never done before. I turned on this music called focus music, which it really makes you concentrate. And I am just in bliss. I thought, 35 years of writing books and I never dared do this. And it's very comfortable. And the work is going very quickly and it's very good writing.
Oh, when you say focus music, are you listening to Focus at Will? Is that what you're listening to?
No, it's called Focus Music on YouTube. It's literally what it's called, Focus Music.
Oh, okay. Well,
and I just
I'm curious if who's behind it might be Will Henschel, who's the founder of Focus at Will. They do have some audios that they've uploaded to YouTube too, but they've got an app that's really cool, and you can pick different genres of music.
And it does focus me, and it gets me very intentional, but I am very comfortable.
Yeah.
And I once met some people who were really devoted meditation folk who they had an Indian teacher, an Indian guru, who said, be comfortable when you meditate. Don't make it hard on your body, because then your energy comes back down into the body. You know, you're trying to figure out why your back hurts or your neck's stiff or your hips are locked in. Be comfortable. And I thought about that, and I thought, I really am comfortable not writing. I haven't dared to write that way. I like sitting straight up. But the editing, why not be comfortable? Why not?
Yeah. No, I hear you. And I guess my distinction around this, as I hear you talk about this, is it can be problematic to get too much into your comfort zone, because as they say, all growth happens outside of your comfort zone. So if you're going to do something that's outside of your comfort zone, like editing your manuscript is certainly not as easy as binge watching Netflix, for example. So it is outside of one's comfort zone in that regard, that it's taking effort and discipline to do so. But yeah, why not be physically comfortable while you're doing it? I'm all for that.
Yeah, I once heard you grow in pain and heal in love, and I do believe that. I do think there's a certain, I think people are numb because they don't want to feel their pain. I think they're numb because it brings on shame and guilt and all those really uncomfortable feelings. I mean, this book I finished, it's on healing shame and guilt and martyrdom. And if you don't address it, if you don't feel the pain, you'll never be able to release that energy, because you won't even know what you have to release. It's so easy to say, oh, forget about it, let it go. Let what go?
Because it's so repressed that you're not facing it to allow it to present its lessons to you. Then you can let it go with love and gratitude.
I'll tell you, once I was with a client, and I said, you might want to consider feeling the pain of this situation. And she said, is it more painful than waxing your legs? And I said, no, no, nothing's more painful than waxing your legs. She said, okay, I'll deal with it. I thought, okay. You know,
funny.
how do you can't equate emotional pain with physical pain. They're, I'll take physical pain any day, because the emotional pain, it's from the spirit, it's locked in the heart, it's what blocks you from growing as an individual. It stunts your spirituality. Physical pain, nobody likes pain. The heart does not like physical pain. That I know. It doesn't like emotional pain. So one of the reasons we look at our issues is to spare the heart. That's a principle in homeopathy and in Chinese medicine. The heart is the emperor. The heart is the source in the physical being, and it doesn't like pain of any kind. So for good heart health, you need to do your work. Yeah.
And there's a lot of releasing to do. There's a lot of forgiveness to do.
Oh,
A lot of self-awareness and
self-love, forgiveness,
self-love.
and self-love. They're the keys. They really are. You can't do it without forgiveness. And you can't do it without knowing that you're worthy, truly worthy of the good and everything you say you want. You can't expect healing to happen without ignoring yourself. And it's a process. I think that I'm surprised in my dotage that it's still uncomfortable, but I can move through it really quickly. When something's there, I said, oh, there's that trigger again. Oh, there's that thought again. When I was younger, I used to negotiate. You can't negotiate. You just have to deal with it. Yes, this is painful, and I can forgive and let it go. I don't want to hold on to this. Yeah. And also there's another thing I'm learning. When something is done, we're done with it. Stop picking at the wound. Let it heal. Let it heal. Mm-hmm. You've done your work. You've done your forgiveness. You've been self-aware. You've claimed your self-worth. Now let it heal. Because there's this point. I do think people are addicted to misery and suffering. So much so they don't even know it. What people are willing to put up with is shocking to me. Shocking. And I deal in pain. That's my work as a homeopath. I deal in physical, emotional, and mental pain. Sometimes I ask the question, how long have you had that symptom? And I hear something like 4 years. 4 years? I mean, if somebody told me 4 hours, I think that would be too much. I don't believe in that level of suffering. There's enough suffering in the world without putting up with things. So let's find the remedy that will give you some relief. Let's deal with that. Yeah. Yes. There is this thing in us to think that suffering is noble. I don't think it's noble. I think it really blocks creativity. I think it blocks joy. I think it blocks connection. I think it blocks our happiness. Yeah. So, but it takes looking inside to see what's making you suffer. What's making you have this repetitive need to pick on the scab of your wound and let it bleed some more and some more and some more. There's a point where it's finished. Let's move on. Yeah. And there's this expression that misery loves company. So when you're miserable, you attract other miserable people into your life. Yeah. You're the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. I like that. They say, Carolyn Mays used to define it as woundology. And I once said to my sister, as she was talking about her problems, I said, honey, people pay me to listen to their problems. I don't want to hear your problems. She said, what do you talk about with your friends? I said, not that. Yeah. Not that. The good stuff. Yeah. Yeah. The good stuff. Yeah. Where'd you get those cool shoes? That's awesome. And I want to distinguish for our listener or viewer, shame versus guilt. And my understanding of it is that shame is I am a mistake versus guilt, which is I made a mistake. Right. I agree with you. I think that's how I've defined it in my book. Yeah, I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. I'm diminished. There's something the matter with me. Nobody can love me. All those things are shame, and guilt is I did something wrong. I feel bad about it. Yeah, and then martyrdom, what results by not treating those conditions, by not looking at the shame and guilt we all carry. Everybody has it. It leads to martyrdom, which is, I define martyrdom as the inability to experience pleasure. There's something I write about in the book called pleasure deficit disorder, which is now a defined medical condition about the inability to be able to experience pleasure. Think about it. That's how numb are people. How numb are, how deadened are the senses. How paralyzed is the central nervous system. We need, I did a big study on myelin, which is the fatty coating of the nerves. And myelin, there's a very interesting book I read on myelin. It says myelin can only be created through repetitive actions, like the football players down in Brazil in these football camps, because they've got Pele and Ronaldo and all these famous soccer players, and they're constantly repeating the same movements, kicking the ball and doing the thing with the head, and they have very high levels of myelin. Violin players, repetitive movement, repetitive movement, repetitive movement. Piano players, almost all musicians, repetitive movement builds myelin, but so does meditation. They prove that meditation actually builds myelin. First of all, you need to preserve your nervous system. That's really important because the nervous system is the last system. When your nervous system starts to go, you are against the wall. There's no place else to go. So you want to preserve your nervous system and you want to eat good fat. You want to eat avocados and certain fats, good olive oil. You need fat. But to build myelin, think about it, to build it, they're really doing a lot of studies on this now because it will be life-saving. When you think of the autoimmune diseases now, they're all diseases of the central nervous system. And they're very hard to come back from, even in young people who have that elixir called youth. And youth, don't kid yourself, it's a quantifiable factor in healing. But even youth are struggling today with high levels of anxiety and fear and wondering about their lives and what they're going to be able to do. And they have such a limited outlook that they can only imagine that life is going to be one long plague. So they need fat. They need to have robust bodies. It's an interesting thing because it affects the way you eat, the choices for your food, how you exercise, how you rest, how you pray, how you meditate. If you want the long haul, you're going to have to take care of yourself. You're going to have to know you count, that you're of value to God and to the world, and hopefully to yourself.
Yeah.
It's to
treat
be
your body like a temple.
It is a temple, and that's where all this stuff interweaves. Health and chakras and angels, and it's all part of the same thing on a spectrum, looking at it on a spectrum. And you can look at the physical part, how much spinach do you eat, to, you know, I just heard an angel whispering in my ear. I mean, you can plug in on that spectrum anywhere you want, or you can look at the whole thing.
Yeah. I'm curious, where would, for somebody who is older, maybe facing some memory loss, maybe even dementia, out of all these different modalities, homeopathy and meditation and chakra cleansing and clearing or balancing, all these different modalities, what would you recommend to somebody who's experiencing memory loss or dementia?
Homeopathy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You can't stop. No, let me be clear. If somebody has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's or dementia,
yeah,
you cannot reverse it, but you can stop it. You can stop deterioration. So I say to people who ask me about it, I can't bring him back. but I can stop further deterioration so that you may enjoy one another longer. And there are things that can kickstart the memory. There are herbs, there are remedies that can help with that. But if you see signs of it, get to a homeopath as quickly as you can. Really, seriously, because, and also I believe in acupuncture. I love acupuncture because it stimulates the whole energetic field. You want to get blood into the brain. Bottom line is you want to decalcify the brain and get some blood flow in there. So there are definitely things you can do, but don't wait until it's too late. If you see a sign of that, or you experience a sign of that in yourself, there are 8,500 remedies in homeopathy. There certainly are a few that can help with that. They say in homeopathy, this is what I was taught, that memory is the first thing to go in illness. I always found that really interesting. And when you treat people who are ill with all kinds of things, when their memory comes back again, you know that they are on the healing path. That made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. And what about COVID? Like if you'd mentioned earlier that you had prepared some protocols for family members in case they got COVID. So you were all ready to go. Are these kind of one size fits all protocols, or are they more specific to?
No, they're not. They're one size fits all. It's pretty simple. I really can't give that information out publicly because it would be prescribing.
Right. Yeah.
But
yeah.
there
all
there
sorts
are,
of disclaimers and all that. Yes. We got it.
yeah, there are. And oddly enough, let me just share this with you. There is one remedy in particular that stops it in a heartbeat. Usually the first symptom is severe sore throat, burning sore throat. And I've treated 27 cases of COVID. I have colleagues that have treated 3,000. Colleagues in India and South America treated thousands of cases of COVID. And this one remedy, a woman called me right in the beginning, a year and a half ago, and she's screaming down the phone at me, I've got it. I work in a nursing home. I know I've got it. She told me she had this sore throat and I couldn't get to her. I was working and I could not get to her. I could not leave where I was. And I said, do you have any homeopathic remedies? And she said, yes. I said, do you have this particular remedy? She said, yes. So she took it and I said, call me in an hour. She called me about 3 hours later. She said, I took it and I fell asleep and I woke up and it's all gone. The sore throat is completely gone. I feel fine. And whoa, that's interesting. Because when somebody calls you with a common cold, it takes at least 5 remedies to get rid of a cold. So what is one remedy doing, getting rid of these profound symptoms of COVID? The COVID is not as problematic as the vaccines. They're really problematic because nobody's ever dealt in this field ever before in the history of medicine. Nobody. And so it's done very carefully. Very, very carefully.
Yep.
Don't really want to talk about that.
Yeah, no, that's a very politicized and polarizing area, and it shouldn't be. Like, we should have our own free will when it comes to what gets injected in our own bodies, not just
I agree with that.
whether we go and read one particular book or another. I mean, it's pretty shocking how people have gone for the jugular with each other over their stance on and their disagreement with someone else's stance about vaccination or about masks or about who's president. But, it's darkest before the dawn. So I'm not letting it get to me. I'm just knowing that everything is divinely guided, that you got to see the hand of God in absolutely everything. And even if a family member won't speak to you because of your vaccination status, that's okay.
That's okay. That's right. And that's maturity. That's maturity.
Yep. And send them love anyways. Send them love. Send them light.
That's the best vaccination.
Yes, exactly. I know we're close to time. I wanted to kind of switch to a bit of a lightning round here for these last few minutes. I'm yeah, I'm curious about a whole bunch of different things. So let's go into just a quick answer for each one. We talked about prayer earlier and how you get your prayer warriors, your students to all pray for somebody's healing. And I know prayer can do so many miracles. Every prayer is heard. I know that. Not every prayer is answered in the way that we want it because we don't see the bigger picture. And yet prayer can change the course of a hurricane.
Yes.
So what would be a very precise way to pray for somebody and their healing? And one particular thought comes to mind before I hear your answer on this. I want to share one that I just recently received. It was through Jan Tober, and she told me about Tom Moore and his way of framing it as asking for the most benevolent outcome for the person and for everyone involved. And I found that to be so powerful and really, really helpful. So anytime I'm praying for somebody for their healing, for their financial situation, for whatever tragedy they're facing, loss, etc., I'm praying for their most benevolent outcome and for them and for everyone else involved.
That's lovely. Thank you for sharing that. I really like that. Recently had a client who was diagnosed with cancer, and she's a woman who's had a big influence on my life for years, for almost 35 years. And I said, what I got was a council of her most beloved friends and family, and have everybody pray the same prayer. Just write it down. What do you want? What do you want us to say? Whether it's 4 people or 40 people in the circle, it doesn't matter. And nobody has to be close to one another. We're global and we're connected globally. So what is it you want? And we will pray that for you. And I found that to be incredibly effective. And it's really given her tremendous strength to deal with what she has to deal with. So I like that. Ask those that you love and who love you and only want the best for you and you the best for them to share a common prayer. It's easy enough. It's easy enough. Write it down. What is it you want? I want healing. I want grace. I want health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression. That's what Frances Scoville Shen said. She was Louise Hay's teacher, lived in the 30s. I love that. She called it the divine design of your life. Health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression, the 4 square of life. What is it that you are asking for? And then call upon those people you love and trust and ask them to pray for you and hold you in the inner sanctum of their hearts. It's as simple as that. I've seen miracles with prayer, literally miracles. I had a friend many years ago who was in labor, giving birth, and the baby got stuck in there, and she was pushing and pushing, and she'd been in labor for like 35 hours, and she was totally drained and had no more energy. And I called a friend of mine who was the ex-Jesuit, who had a council of, he had a phone number for a convent somewhere in Missouri or God knows where, in the middle of America. They were nuns who did nothing but pray for people. And he called them and he said, please pray for this woman. She's struggling to give birth and we're afraid we're going to lose her. And they started praying, and this woman gave birth within like minutes. And afterwards, she said, it was like a great wave. She said, literally, it was like a great wave came over me and just took that baby out. And I thought, wow, that's incredible. That made me started to think about the group of people praying for you and you praying in a group. I think there's a lot to be said for that. When 2 or more people come together in my name, you know, your prayers will be answered, Christ said. And I do, and the Jews pray in groups of 10 adult males. I think they could include females now, but the idea of the minyan, this idea of collectively holding somebody, blessing somebody, making sure they are safe and protected. That's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
Okay, that was maybe longer than you wanted.
that was beautiful. And that's also not to diminish the power of one person's prayer all by
Oh,
themselves.
that's right. That's right. Because that too will be heard. You know,
Yeah.
Christ, the I am, Yud He Vav He, it lives within us. It is the living principle within us. It is the name of our spirit. So how could it not hear? Just remember to ask.
That's right.
That's the trick. Please say, I need help. I once heard there were only 2 prayers. Please help and thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Well, the Ho'oponopono prayer is, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you,
Yes.
and I love you. And that is
Ho'oponopono
very
is
powerful.
perfect. Oh, so powerful. And that book is just knockout. Dr. Lou's book. I love it.
Which one?
The one on Ho'oponopono.
Yeah, there are multiple ones. I just am reading one from Matt James on Ho'oponopono, Your Path to True Forgiveness. Beautiful, beautiful
It's
book.
so beautiful.
Yeah. So the one you're referring to is the one
Dr.
by
Leonard Liu. Yeah, he's the one who brought it to our consciousness. He's a Hawaiian psychologist who had he worked with criminals, and he had this, you know, he had their files and photographs, and he decided he was going to do it on this really hardened criminal. Nothing had touched this guy, and he had this photograph of him, and every day, I don't know, several times a day, he said Ho'oponopono to this photograph, and slowly but surely this man's life turned around, and he became open and receptive and healed and released from prison and did service. You know, I was like, good grief, from a photograph, that from intention, sheer intention.
Yep.
That's prayer.
Yeah, I do that with one of my daughters isn't speaking to me or to my wife or our little one. And this has been going on for a very long time. And I've been using the Ho'oponopono prayer. So I can't speak to her. She doesn't speak to me. So I can't speak
You're
to.
speaking to her, though. You're speaking to her through prayer.
Right. And the way I do it is I call in Archangel Gabriel and I ask him to deliver the message in the way that delivers the most benevolent outcome for her and for everyone involved. And to choose the right timing and the right format of the message, and then I'll expound upon the Ho'oponopono for statements, and it's powerful. I know it's working. I know it.
It's working. How could it not?
Yeah.
How could it not? What else do you want to ask?
Well, I know we're out of time, so I will leave it at that. Now, if our listener or viewer wants to pick up one of your books, in particular the new one that's just out, the Releasing Shame, Guilt, and Martyrdom book, or your oracle decks, or work with your school or for homeopaths, or hire a homeopath and need some guidance around that. If they just want to learn from you, where should they go?
www.lifeenergymedicine, one word, lifeenergymedicine.com. The new book will be up on the website in a couple of weeks, and people can order directly or purchase and be given a free book on affirmations and a free meditation CD. So that will be available. We just need to get your name and your email address. www.lifeenergymedicine.com, or my name, which is Ambika, Ambika Wauters, Wauters, Ambika@ambikawauters.com.
Yeah. So ambikawauters.com is the website, ambika@ambikawauters.com for your email. Mm-hmm. And by the time this episode airs, the book will probably even be out.
Yeah.
So
that's correct. That's correct.
Yeah.
It'll be out and be up on the website too.
That's awesome. So thank you so much, Ambika. This was such a wonderful conversation, and you're just such a light in the world. Thank you for everything that you do for humanity, for all of us.
Thank you. And thank you, Stephan. It's always a pleasure. You know, you bring the best out, and I'm very grateful.
No,
never nervous talking to you. It just flows. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well. Be blessed.
Yes.
That's my
And
prayer.
listener, please also be well and be blessed and go out there and do some good in the world, and you'll
Yes.
get it 10 times back in return. That's how the universe works. We'll catch you on the
Love
next
God, do
episode.
good. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.